Have you ever noticed how the moment you finally start respecting yourself, people begin to call you difficult? It's strange, isn't it? The world admires strong women, but the moment a woman becomes unshakable, they feel threatened, and yet that's exactly when her real power begins, when she no longer bends just to be accepted. Today, I want to talk to you about that transformation. The moment a woman stops being stressed and starts being strong, ChatGPT said, there's a deep kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from physical work. It comes from constantly trying to prove your worth to people who were never meant to recognize it. Many women live in this cycle for years, carrying an invisible weight. They smile when they're breaking inside. They agree when their heart says no. And they overextend themselves just to keep the peace. But peace that costs your dignity is not peace, it's quiet suffering. When a woman begins to awaken to her true worth, something inside her shifts. She starts to see that her value was never meant to be negotiated in someone else's story. She realizes that the endless pursuit of approval is a form of self-abandonment. The more she tries to please everyone, the further she drifts from herself. And so, she begins to unlearn. She starts letting go of the need to be understood, to be liked, to be chosen. This is not arrogance, it is awareness. It is the understanding that her energy is a currency, and not everyone deserves access to it. She becomes more selective, not because she feels superior, but because she has finally recognized that her time, her emotions, and her presence are sacred. She no longer seeks validation from the outside world because she has found it within. True strength is not in saying yes to everything. It's in knowing when to say no without guilt. It's in realizing that saying no to others is sometimes saying yes to yourself. This is where real peace begins, in the quiet, decisive moment when a woman stops trying to fit into spaces that shrink her. She no longer performs to earn love or adjusts herself to be accepted. Instead, she begins to live in alignment, doing what nourishes her, speaking what she truly feels, and protecting what she values. This alignment creates a calm power that others can feel. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. And that's when she understands the truth. She was never meant to please the world, she was meant to awaken it. Because when a woman chooses peace over pleasing, she doesn't lose people, she loses pressure, and in that loss, she finds herself. There's a moment in every woman's journey when she realizes that holding on is no longer strength. It's fear disguised as loyalty. For so long, she's been taught that endurance equals love, that staying means she's committed, that leaving means she's failed. But the truth is, not every battle is meant to be fought until the end. Sometimes, wisdom is knowing when to put the sword down. Walking away is not an act of weakness. It is an act of profound self-respect. It means recognizing that something or someone no longer aligns with your growth. And that awareness takes courage, because walking away doesn't just mean leaving a person or a place. It often means letting go of the version of yourself that accepted less than you deserved. It means releasing the hope that things would change if only you tried harder. There's pain in that process, yes. The mind resists, the heart hesitates. You start to question yourself. What if I'm giving up too soon? What if I'm the problem? But strength is not about pretending to be okay. It's about honoring what your intuition has been whispering all along. When your soul is tired, that is not a sign to push harder. It's a signal to pause, to realign, to walk toward peace. And something powerful happens when a woman finally does. The world doesn't collapse as she feared, it expands. Doors she never saw begin to open. Energy she thought was gone starts to return. She begins to see that she was never losing something by walking away. She was making space for what truly belongs. We often think that walking away means losing love, but in reality, it's how we return to love, not the fragile kind that depends on others, but the steady kind that starts from within. When a woman walks away from what no longer serves her, she steps into her own sovereignty. She reclaims her voice, her value, her direction. And that's when she understands the deeper truth. Strength is not proven by how long you hold on. It's revealed by how gracefully you let go. Because sometimes walking away isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your freedom. There's a quiet strength that very few people understand, the kind that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, and doesn't need to prove its presence. It's the calm that a woman carries when she has faced storms within herself and survived them, when she's been broken open by life but still chooses not to let bitterness take root. That calm is not passivity. It's mastery, the mastery of her emotions, her energy, and her awareness. When a woman learns to remain calm in chaos, it's not because she doesn't feel. It's because she has learned to witness her feelings rather than be controlled by them. She has seen what happens when emotions run unchecked, how easily peace can be stolen by a single word, how quickly energy can drain through reaction. So she begins to pause. She observes, she breathes, and in that pause, she reclaims her power. The world often confuses calm with indifference. But there is a vast difference. Indifference comes from disconnect. Calm comes from understanding. Calm says, I see what's happening, but I refuse to let it define me. It's not that she doesn't care, it's that she has learned what deserves her care and what does not. In chaos, the mind wants to react, to defend, to explain, to fight. But the woman who knows her worth no longer moves from impulse. She moves from intention. She understands that peace is not found in controlling circumstances, but in mastering her response to them. This is the essence of inner power, not to escape the storm, but to remain still within it. That kind of calm presence has a magnetic quality. People feel it. It doesn't demand respect. It commands it, not through dominance, but through balance. Because when a woman stands rooted in her peace, she becomes untouchable by chaos. She doesn't need to raise her voice. Her energy already speaks. And that's when true transformation begins, when calm is no longer something she seeks, but something she is. Because the storm may rage around her, but she has learned the ultimate truth. When you master your inner world, the outer world can no longer disturb your peace. ChatGPT said, there comes a stage in every woman's growth where she realizes that love without boundaries is not love, it's self-erasure. For too long, she may have believed that giving endlessly is what makes her kind, that saying yes to everything proves her value. But over time, something in her begins to feel empty. She starts to notice that the more she gives without measure, the less she receives in return, not because the world is cruel, but because she has never taught it how to treat her. Boundaries are not walls, they are mirrors. They reflect what we are willing to allow and what we are not. A woman who knows her worth doesn't build barriers to shut others out. She builds boundaries to stay true to herself. She understands that every time she says yes to something that violates her peace, she is silently saying no to herself. And that realization changes everything. There is great strength in learning to say no without explanation. It's not coldness, it's clarity. It's the awareness that her energy is not infinite, that her heart is not a resource for everyone to take from freely. The woman who understands this no longer apologizes for protecting her space. She no longer feels guilty for resting, for detaching, for choosing what feels right for her. The world will often misunderstand boundaries as selfishness, but the truth is they are an act of love, both for oneself and for others. Because when a woman respects her own limits, she stops expecting others to fill her emptiness. She stops resenting people for taking what she freely gave. And that shift transforms her relationships from ones of dependence to ones of balance. When she begins to stand firm in her truth, people who were drawn to her weakness will fall away, and that's not loss, it's alignment. Those who remain are those who see her strength and rise to meet it. She stops living to be understood and starts living to be respected. Because a woman without boundaries will always feel drained, but a woman who honors them glows with quiet confidence. Boundaries don't push love away, they invite the right kind of love to stay. There is a common misconception in this world that to be strong, a woman must be hard, that to survive, she must silence her softness, hide her emotions, and lead with a constant shield. But true strength was never about the absence of emotion. It's about the mastery of it. A woman who knows her worth doesn't lose herself in hardness. She learns to remain open, gentle, and kind even when life gives her every reason not to be. Softness is not weakness. It is awareness expressed through grace. It takes tremendous inner discipline to stay kind when you've been hurt, to stay compassionate when others are cold, to still choose empathy in a world that rewards indifference. Softness is a form of wisdom. It's knowing that reacting with anger or bitterness only drains your spirit. It's understanding that gentleness is not the opposite of power. It's the highest form of it. The woman who has found balance in her softness doesn't let others walk over her. She simply no longer feels the need to fight every battle. She can say no with calm, speak truth with compassion, and walk away without hate. This balance between softness and strength is what gives her presence depth. People feel her peace, yet sense her power. She doesn't dominate a room, she elevates it. Softness is not about surrendering your strength. It's about mastering your reactions so deeply that you no longer allow the world to harden you. Anyone can close their heart after being hurt. It takes real courage to keep it open. That is the essence of true resilience, to rise again, not as a colder version of yourself, but as a wiser one. The woman who embraces her softness becomes untouchable in a different way. She cannot be manipulated by cruelty because she no longer operates on that frequency. She understands that kindness is not a transaction. It's a reflection of her inner stability. Because when a woman remains soft in a hard world, it doesn't mean she's naive. It means she's powerful enough to stay human. And that kind of power doesn't need to be proven. It simply radiates. When a woman truly knows her worth, something profound happens. She becomes unshakable. Not because life suddenly becomes easy or kind, but because she no longer depends on external circumstances to define her peace. She stops being a prisoner of other people's opinions, and instead becomes a guardian of her own truth. That shift changes everything. An unshakable woman isn't one who avoids pain. She's the one who's learned how to face it without losing herself. She has fallen, been misunderstood, been underestimated, and yet she rises again every time, not out of ego, but out of purpose. Her strength doesn't come from what she controls. It comes from what she has surrendered, the need to prove, the need to please, the need to be perfect. She understands that her power lies not in resistance, but in alignment. When life tests her, she doesn't panic, she pauses. She knows that chaos doesn't require a reaction, only awareness. Every challenge becomes a mirror, reflecting how deeply she trusts herself. She no longer seeks validation because her self-worth is no longer conditional. The world can reject her, misunderstand her, even doubt her, but none of that touches the stillness she has built within. People often mistake unshakable women for those who are emotionless or detached, but that's not the case. She feels deeply, but she's no longer controlled by those feelings. She loves without losing herself. She listens without absorbing negativity. She gives without depleting her spirit. She has found the delicate balance between strength and serenity, and that balance makes her magnetic. The truth is, once a woman understands who she is, the world can no longer use her insecurities against her. She no longer reacts to disrespect, because she knows silence is a far greater teacher than argument. She no longer fears endings, because she's learned that endings are simply the universe's way of making space for something greater. Because an unshakable woman doesn't need the world to tell her who she is, she already knows. And when you reach that level of peace, no rejection can wound you, no praise can distract you, and no storm can move you. You simply stand, calm, clear, and completely free.